Thanks for joining. Today we'll focus about GitHub Copilot. This is the last session in the current series, and we will follow similar approach. We'll discuss concepts, backbit technologies, and some examples through demos. These sessions are basically for anybody who's interested in Gen AI as such. I keep these sessions at a conceptual level so that anybody who's joining can understand. I give demos to generate confidence, and basically the idea is to understand the concept through examples which is implemented practically. I'm happy to take these sessions to the next level if you require. So I use Gen AI models from Azure, but most of the work that I do uses open source frameworks, languages, and tool sets. The idea is whatever you learn and gain out of this session can be applied to any platform that you work on. I've got a LinkedIn group focused on Gen AI topics, and I keep on publishing information related to whatever is developing in the market and the newer concepts. Feel free to join if you have not joined so already. I had 3 more series in the past. I've got recordings of each in the invite that I've sent. Feel free to go through them if you have missed those sessions. Now let's understand first, and it is repetition of what we've discussed in the last session also. What is a pilot and a copilot? And we're talking about GitHub Copilot. Let's understand. So this diagram that I have created using Gen AI only is trying to explain the concept of a copilot in a very simple term. So let's assume you have a system which is an aeroplane, and the person in the command is the pilot. The person who is flying that plane decides what needs to be done in a particular circumstance. That is similar to the user. So the command is with pilot, but we do have a copilot which provides assistance. The purpose of Copilot is to provide whatever is required for the pilot to really be effective. So, in a similar term, you would have an application, could be a productivity application like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Outlook, Teams, Azure platform, Power platform, and you are basically using to build something to develop some functionality, and you are helped with an AI assistant, or in Microsoft term Copilot, to do your job more effectively. It is not just improving the experience but also to become more productive in what you do. So we have number of copilots. These copilots are not just limited to Microsoft ecosystems, although the list that I have is about the Microsoft products, but you have other companies bringing Copilot capabilities in their application and the platform. So we have Copilot for Microsoft 365, Copilot Pro, GitHub Copilot. That is what we are going to talk about today. Dynamics, which is a CRM. We have Power Platform Copilot. There's a special Copilot for Microsoft, security. And in the last session, we have seen Copilot for Azure. So there are number of Copilots essentially focus around one application, and Copilot being the assistant for the user to carry out tasks more effectively. So let's see some of the Copilots. What you see on the screen is a Copilot which is built inside Microsoft Edge. So I'm on a Wikipedia page, and if you see on the right hand side, if you press this button, it will surface a Copilot, and you can basically do a lot of things. Like, for example, I'm interested in getting the summary of the page that I'm currently navigating on, and it'll basically summarize the content, provide you an excellent way to understand quickly what is there in that page. So that's basically being Copilot, or the Copilot which is bundled with uh, Microsoft Edge browser. Then in the last session, we have seen Copilot for Azure. So you see there's a button here, and I'm on Azure portal, and I get a capability which is specific to Azure. Now these Copilots are tagged on, grouped onto a main application, and you would have different types of Copilots for different types of applications. So here I'm held by the assistance which is provided by Copilot here. Another Copilot that you can see, this is Power Platform. I'm in a Power Automate desktop, and you can see there's a Copilot baked in this UI, and I can specify what I'm looking forward to do in a simple natural language, and it'll just create a flow for that. Few examples of the Copilots which are available in different applications. Coming back to GitHub Copilot, uh, GitHub Copilot is primarily meant for people who are in development space. So it's basically an AI coding assistant, or like a peer programmer, that helps write code faster with less efforts, because so many times we are building things with a lot of things which are common, and GenAI is really very useful in those scenarios where we can actually get the code developed very efficiently and correctly. So what are the features of GitHub Copilot? It basically do something called an auto suggest or auto complete. As you type, it will basically throw suggestion for you to release. Just select instead of typing or writing code by hand. It has a chat support like in any other Copilot, which can help you do certain things. It can also do things on command line, generate description of the changes in a pull request, and create and manage collection of documentation called knowledge bases, which is used as a context when you are chatting with Copilots. Microsoft claims, take it with a pinch of salt. Using GitHub Copilot, there is a 46% gain in terms of building new code, 55% faster overall developer productivity, and 74% of developers feeling more focused on satisfying work. Uh, Basically, it takes care of the mundane work so that the developer can focus on the key aspects that needs to be developed. In terms of features, it has code completion like we see, Copilot chat, and Copilot in CLI. Now, GitHub Copilot is available in Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, JetBrains IDE, Azure Data Studio, Xcode, Vim, New Vim. These are the common IDs that are integrated with Copilot so that you remain in the IDE, and it is basically assisting you, and I'll show it in the form of a demo. You do have a chat for basically collaborating and asking question, asking for it to identify bugs, and you do have a command line interface also. We'll see all that in the demo. So let's see how the code completion works. Suppose you're building a Node JS or any JavaScript application, and what it will do, once you type the function calculate days between dates, the moment you type, it will suggest by looking at the name itself what is required in terms of the code to accomplish that functionality. And then you just choose if it is something which is making sense, and that's it. So what you're essentially writing a small description either in the form of a hint or writing the name of the function which is self-explanatory in terms of its required functionality, and it will try to uh, throw suggestion for the code that is required. You can also use Copilot if you have a code. You can see here you identify the code segment for which you want to build test cases, and it will generate the test cases for the code that you have. And we'll see all that in the demo. So let's look at the code completion demo. Right now I'm in Visual Studio Code, which is an open source code editor from Microsoft. And let's say I'm trying to write a function to add two integers. So the moment I type int add in ints and press enters, it will provide me the code which is basically the auto suggest or auto complete aspect. Similarly, let's say I want to add prime numbers. I enter, and what you see is the gray portion is the auto completion feature of GitHub Copilot. And you'll also see some options. So basically it is providing you two different types of code for you to choose, and you can accept or discard the code that GitHub Copilot is generating for you. So that's about code completion. Let's see the other way where you can actually achieve development productivity. So you can see there's a message is written as press Ctrl I. So if I press Ctrl I, I'm provided with a window that I can use to provide a prompt. For example, I'm asking Copilot to write a program that takes two numbers and produces the product of the two numbers. Again, it has written the code for me. I have choice to accept, and that's it. Now suppose I realize that I needed to do that multiplication for three numbers instead of two. I select the code and press Ctrl I, add a description in the form of a prompt, say add another number for multiplication. So it will look at the current code, and you can see it is modifying the code and giving me an option to accept. Now my code is converted to accepting three numbers and generating the product of these three numbers. Let's look at another example that we've discussed in the presentation. This is a JavaScript code that I'm building. So I'm just writing function calculate days between the dates. The moment I press enter, it will show me three options to do a task, and I choose whatever I like. Let's do something which is a full program development in Python. Say for example, I want to build a small code that will implement the mini game rock paper scissors. I just provide that prompt, develop the logic of the mini game rock paper scissors based on the following specifications. The winner of the game is identified based on and that's it. Now see what this is doing. It is generating the entire program that will implement the logic to implement that game, and that's it. Now let's try running it. So if I run this code here, so see, it is fully functional. I choose rock, computer chooses paper, and computer wins. So this is basically a demonstration of the capabilities of GitHub Copilot to generate code in all popular languages and help you achieve developer productivity. So let's look at some other aspects. For example, I have a code which basically multiplies two numbers, and say there's a bug. The programmer, instead of multiplying, has incorrectly put a wrong operator, a division operator instead. And I want to identify if there's any issue with that. So I can use to fix it. Let's see. So basically, you can see here, it is basically telling you to correct, because instead of division, the operator should be multiplication to have that. And when you accept that, your program has been fixed. So that is one useful capability. Capability of Copilot, uh, GitHub Copilot, is understanding of the code. Let's say you have a code and you're trying to understand uh, what exactly this code performs. So what it will do, it will provide you the explanation if you're trying to understand the code. And for example, you want to document the code, that is also possible. So it will perform the review and incorporate the comments that are required, uh, and that will make your, your code more understandable, and basically adds the commentary about the functions that it performs, and for every expression it will also try to explain. So this is a very useful feature, especially if your code has been written with poor internal comments, or you're trying to understand code written by somebody else. We have just seen the capability GitHub Copilot provides in terms of generation of codes, commenting, reviewing, fixing if there are any bugs, and that is really makes it really a very productive tool for development process. We've seen Copilot chat, uh, inline comments that came. So essentially, if you are running Copilot in command line, you can use /doc to add a documentation comment, /explain to explain the code. If there are bugs, you can use /fix, /generate code to answer your question, generate test cases. And if you want to do it for the entire project, you can just provide the context as /workspace. GitHub Copilot is also available. You can see this is a screenshot and a video that I have captured. That capability is also available in a mobile application, although it is unlikely that people will use mobile phone to develop code. But it is still something useful that you can. In terms of pricing, GitHub Copilot for individuals is available for $10 USD uh, per month, or you can pay $100 for the entire year. There's a business version and enterprise versions price at $19 and $39 USD for business and enterprises. So we have seen demos. Now let's look at what are the other aspects which GitHub Copilot can help to write not just the code which is functionally um, performing the task, but also it is good in terms of code qualities. For example, if you have a code written, you can write a prompt to suggest refactoring or implement some design patterns or improve the coding style. Now, these are important aspects of building an application code which is more robust. Similarly, you can use Copilot to improve the reliability. How do you implement better error handling or input validation or exception handling in the database connection class? Again, this increases the reliability, which is generally overlooked. You can rely on Copilot to do that. In terms of performance, if you have some algorithm that can be improved by using GitHub Copilot, in reduce the memory footprint or efficiency of such service in a class. And also, this is very important if you have a code which deals with sensitive data. You can ask Copilot to help enhance data encryption, implement secure authentication, and secure exception handling. So, GitHub Copilot is not just only helping you in terms of the functional requirement, but also helps you improve the non-functional aspect of the code, which is very, very useful. And like I said in the beginning, a combination of these would really improve the overall productivity and the quality of the code using a GitHub Copilot like to any AI assistant which helps you in terms of coding and test case generations. So to wrap it up, GitHub Copilot is an AI coding assistant that will help any developer in different ways through a chat-based interface or autocomplete uh, that will help understand the code, write code, fix bugs if there are any, write test cases and documentation. That generally takes a lot of developers' time. It is available for all popular IDs like Visual Studio Code, um, JetBrains IDs, Vim, New Vim, Azure Data Studio, and Xcode if you are developing for iOS. That's all for the day. Thanks for joining in. Thanks again. See you.